We got Eric in Las Vegas. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. This is my first time calling.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Hey, I've been watching your show for a while now, and it's actually the first time that I've ever really been introduced to the word atheist, and I still have a hard time for some reason saying that. So I saw your show, just YouTubing, and I was like, oh, what's this? And as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's something inside of me that's like, it just clicked. And I used to go to church. I don't anymore because I just don't have a church near here that I go to, but I started to really try to, like you did, Matt, investigate what did I believe before, and what are these feelings inside of me that are getting me to think that something's off here. So I started reading the Bible, and this has only been the past couple of weeks. I never read the Bible before, and I recall, ministries and sermons and all these good things about it. So I was like, well, let's see where those are. And I've gotten into it's Deuteronomy, I think, right now. It's about 1/5 through the Bible, and so far, it's been, I don't know where to begin. It's been about what your other caller was talking about, sex and killing people, and it's the most immoral thing I've ever heard of. Is this the entire Bible?
Yeah, you got a good start. It gets worse.
No, it's not. It's not the entire Bible, and it would be unfair to say it's representative. I think there are plenty of nice things in Ecclesiastes, for example, which was most likely written by a non-believer. I've gone through a verse-by-verse kind of deconstruction of the Sermon on the Mount that's available at the Iron Chariots wiki, wiki.ironchariots.org, that goes verse by verse to show that this supposed greatest sermon ever given that demonstrates wisdom beyond any that man could ever comprehend is actually a little bit of good advice and a bunch of bad advice and some rather ignorant comments. And so it's frustrating for me, and in particular, when I see somebody like Dawkins go ahead and say, well, yes, of course you have the Sermon on the Mount, which is, this great sermon. No, it's not. It is not. People have been duped into believing that, okay, well, this Jesus guy said all these great things, but the doctrine around this is just kind of, nasty. No, Jesus said some rather particularly stupid things as reported in the Bible. There are, and I'm not going to go into them now. You can go to wiki.ironchariots.org and find that thing. So, yeah, you're going to find a mix of things in the Bible, just like you would find a mix of things in any number of books that have been collected together to demonstrate a doctrine from disparate authors.
Right. These first few chapters that I've been reading, and the book is pretty big, as you know, I've found things that have had inherently good meanings. I just passed, I think it was in Deuteronomy, I just passed the Ten Commandments. And there's like, love your father and mother. Okay, that's fine. But as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that God, as many religions and many people describe him, because you have to describe what are you talking about when you say God. I know you've mentioned that before.
Sure.
have stated that he's all-loving and all-knowing, etc. Well, right now, 90% of what I'm reading in the Bible, it may not be all bad, but it's sure a lot of it. So how does that explain?
You should probably go talk to some Christian apologists, but I can tell you that a lot of them are going to talk about God being infinitely just. And so the things that, first of all, you look at and see as immoral, you are just simply wrong because you are an immoral being, and who are you to judge God? And that God has a grander understanding of justice. And so when he orders the Israelites to go in and slaughter an entire nation, this is from a moral action that, though we evidently can't understand it, God knows so much more about morality than us that it is in fact moral. And I say bullshit on two levels. First of all, it's absurd to make claims that things like that are moral. And second of all, as I pointed out before, it is necessarily immoral to hold someone accountable for a moral concept that is beyond their comprehension. So if in fact there was a God who had a better understanding of morality than we did, it would be immoral for him to hold us to his standards if they're beyond our comprehension. You can only be held responsible for the things that you actually comprehend, which is why most states tend to not have a death penalty for those who are mentally handicapped. It is why all parents do not punish their children in the same way that you would punish a teenager or punish an adult for the same infractions. It's because we understand that there must necessarily be a sufficient degree of comprehension of one's wrong, culpability, wrongness, whatever. So the answers you get from apologists, it's double talk. It is, well, God is, so mysterious and he knows so much more than us that, I realize some of these things are difficult for you to understand how God could do this, but he's God. Okay, so what?
And I don't understand how somebody, and I'm still struggling with this, is why I'm calling. I don't understand all the things I'm reading, how somebody like that could really seriously believe themselves. I'm having a hard time. I was on the fence for a while, and I still am in a sense, because I have this somewhat, you described this in a few shows, this fear of going to hell and stuff, which I haven't read in the Bible yet. I haven't gotten to that part for some reason. But it feels like a really scary story, and that's it. Unless I'm wrong.
In some aspects, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I don't have an answer for how people necessarily buy into this. I know that there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, a lot of logical errors. Darrel's talked about the protective mechanisms that go into the God virus. I don't know if you want to kind of address that real quick, but it circumvents reasoning.
Yeah. Once the God virus has gotten in your head, it really doesn't matter what evidence is presented to you. It's almost impossible to see it. Remember, every argument you just heard Matt say could have been said about a Muslim defending their religion as well, or a Hindu or a Buddhist, any number of religions. They all use exactly the same arguments. So keep that in mind as you're reading through the Bible. You realize, okay, this is a pretty scary story, but then go read the Quran. It's a pretty scary story too. And read Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. It's a pretty scary story. They're all scary, and they justify this incredible amount of genocide and misogynation and all sorts of what I would call immoral behavior, because this God is ultimately just and knows far more than we do.
And on that note, Eric, I guess I'll send you back to keep reading a bit, because we don't really have the answer that you're looking for. So finish reading it, I don't know, do a book report and get back with us.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.